Is Kamala Harris going to be the governor of California? Is that a stepping stone for her being the nominee for the Democrats once again? Plus, has Gavin Newsom killed the industry that we most associate with California, the film industry? We're going to discuss this now with our friend Elizabeth Barcohana. She is a California GOP delegate, a lady who knows the pulse of all things GOP in her home state. And Elizabeth, thanks for being on the show. Great to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
So talk to me about Kamala, because I'll tell you this, my co-host Clay Travis, I've been saying to him that if Kamala lost, which she obviously did, she's going to end up the provost of one of the UC schools making $1 million a year to do nothing except show up at an occasional cocktail party. I am seeing some reporting that, oh no, she is not done. In fact, she may be the next governor of California. You and I may think that's insane. Do California Democrats, what happens?
The first time I heard that Kamala Harris, after the election, that she may run for governor, I almost fainted because the idea of having to listen to her speak for another however many years, or even just through a campaign, sounds very painful. Um, Kamala Harris, yes, there is talk of her running for governor of California. Gavin Newsom is termed out in 2026. As if California governorship is some consolation prize for losing the presidency in 2024. She so she lost, she wasted about $1.5 billion on that presidential campaign. And I read almost half of that money came from California. So it would be pretty silly to run a candidate again that, flushed 1.5 billion of your dollars down the toilet. But that doing stupid stuff hasn't stopped them before.
Right. I mean, they tried to tell
Um,
us that Biden didn't have dementia, and that didn't work out so well for them in 2024. But in terms of where the Democrats are in your state and the Democrat, machinery, if you will, like,
the machine, right?
will Gavin Newsom support Kamala in your mind to be the next governor? Because if that happens, it feels like there's a very good chance that she's going to try to. I mean, if she becomes the governor, why wouldn't she try to become president again?
Um, well, we saw a very weird dynamic between the two of them when Biden stepped down. They kept him away. And I don't there's a debate about whether they were keeping him away from her or they were keeping him away to as not taint him for his future run for president. That's possible too. They may cut some deal where if he supports her, she'll support him. We don't know, but we do know that Kamala Harris has run for statewide office before in California, and she honestly did not do very well. She ran in a competitive race, and we expect that the governor's race in 2026 is going to be competitive. She ran in a competitive race against a Republican who was the former Republican district attorney of LA County, Steve Cooley. She ran against him for attorney general and barely won. She didn't even crack 50% of the vote, and it was a 1% very, very close election. That was the last time she ever ran against a Republican in a competitive race. When she ran for US Senate, she was running against another Democrat. So she is a weak Democrat candidate, even for California, and their field is already pretty crowded. She did when there was talk of her running, there were Democrats that were still declaring that they're going to run for governor, even if she runs. One of them is Javier Becerra, who was a secretary under Joe Biden. We have Katie Porter, who's running. She has said that if Kamala runs, she may drop out, but who knows? Um, so the field is still developing on both sides, the Republican and the Democrat side.
Our sponsor here is Paradigm Press. Have you heard about America's $150 trillion secret trust fund? Former presidential advisor Jim Rickards just released an explosive story. A 15-figure fortune owned by the government, trapped for more than a century. Starting this summer, it could be released to the public. It's big enough to pay off our national debt 4 times over. But something even more stunning is likely to happen next year. You can check it out right now at birthright2025.com. Jim Rickards correctly predicted Trump's 2016 victory when polls only gave him a 1 to 2% chance. He predicted the pandemic and lockdowns in 2020, co-crafted the petrodollar accord in the 1970s that gave the U.S. dollar reserve currency status, and even helped the U.S. end the Iranian hostage crisis in the 1980s. Jim's calls are incredible when you look at his history, and Jim Rickards wants you to see his latest. Go to birthright2025.com. Okay, so we've got Gavin Newsom, still the governor of California, which is quite a shame because it's a beautiful state with many lovely people. And yet it is poorly governed, as we all know, and not just by the governor, but by the entire Democrat Party. The movie industry is getting attention right now because Trump has brought up this idea of tariffs on foreign-made movies.
The movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movies, the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. And it's been a very popular thing. I can tell you one thing, movie makers love it.
Before we dive into that more specifically, what is going on where I'm seeing all these interviews and podcasts with actors and Hollywood people who are saying it is too expensive to make any movies or TV shows in Hollywood these days? How does that happen?
That's been going on for a really long time. So, and it's a really big problem, not for, the big name producers or actors, the wealthy elite in Hollywood. It's a problem for the crew and the people who are actually, behind the scenes making the movies, the costumes, designers, set designers, like all of those people, all of those jobs are being sent out of state. That has been going on for a really long time. The other states in the nation offer tax incentives, and so the movies get filmed elsewhere. And now that's happening also on an international scale. And another thing that really killed the film industry is the pandemic. So with the mandates and the
the insanity of
just the
California.
whole
This audience certainly remembers
right.
all that. But Elizabeth, why don't Democrats? I mean, Democrats like Hollywood. At least they have for a long time. Why don't they offer these tax credits?
They're starting to talk about it. I think it's just because they've had other priorities. Gavin Newsom is a Northern California president. Governor.
Governor, yeah.
When he ran for governor, he ran against Antonio Villaraigosa, who was the former mayor of Los Angeles. It was like a NorCal SoCal fight, and obviously, Gavin Newsom prevailed in that. And that's where, the Silicon Valley, the San Francisco, the Bay Area interest, the tech interest really took over in terms of economic policy and focus of the Democrat Party to Southern California's detriment.
Yeah, no, it's been remarkable to see how the movie industry, which, people think Silicon Valley, obviously that's Northern California, right? So the two titans
Correct.
of industry in your home state in California are the movie industry and Silicon Valley. And at the southern end of the state, movie industry has been in a rough spot for a while. I saw this podcast. I think it was with Rob Lowe and Adam Scott, who actually some people say I look like, but put that aside. Adam Scott, and he was saying that it's more expensive to film in Hollywood than it is to fly everybody to like I think it was Hungary. He said, I think it was Budapest, and that to me is just indicative of how crazy the California policies are going. By the way, one thing you know about how is the rebuild going after the terrible wildfires there? There's been nothing in the media, at least the national media, about this for months. Remember, Gavin Newsom showed up. He said, "Oh, we're gonna make the permitting faster, and it's all gonna be so smooth." What's really happening? Palisades fire, aftermath.
Right. There is a lot going on, but it's happening so slowly that it's not necessarily in the news. What was just published in the news is that the water reservoir that was empty, that was supposed to feed the Palisades, they didn't have enough water to fight the fire. That's empty again. At about the 100-day mark, I think Los Angeles had approved 4 or 6 permits for rebuilding out of the thousands of structures that were lost. A lot of people have moved down to Orange County or Manhattan Beach. They've like temporarily relocated. The schools in the area have been closed and they've relocated to other places. There's talk about rebuilding. Rick Caruso has been very involved in trying to get this process to kind of have AI look at plans to speed up the permit approval process. So people are basically
But
self-authenticating.
has Governor Newsom streamlined the bureaucracy? Have they gotten the Coastal Commission to back off all that stuff?
No, not really. I mean, you need to do a few things at the statewide level. You need to get rid of CEQA. You need to get rid of the California Coastal Commission. You need to fix the insurance industry problem. And no, he hasn't done any of those things.
All right. Well, let's talk about Latinos for Trump here in just a second. What do you say? We'll talk about Latinos for Trump. Because obviously California, very large Latino population, and I want to know how they're feeling after this Trump election. A few nonprofit. Our sponsor here is Preborn. There aren't many nonprofits that can say they've saved 350,000 babies over the existence of that nonprofit, but Preborn is one of them. The Preborn team have clinics nationwide who welcome pregnant moms to their facilities, and they welcome them with love, with open arms and support, because they want them to see that the future for them should have a baby in it and not the other choice, which we know is abortion. They do this by an ultrasound. They introduce mom to her baby via ultrasound, and they only are able to do this because of donations from the pro-life community. That means you. $28 is the cost of an ultrasound. If you can donate that, that's fantastic. You might save a baby's life. If you can donate $280, that would be 10 ultrasounds, which could result in 10 births of tiny babies in this world. It is a beautiful thing. To donate securely, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or visit preborn.com/buck. That's preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored by Preborn. All right, Elizabeth, the Latino vote was actually really important for Trump in this last election. Some of that data, I think, showed up in the exit polls in California specifically. How are the Latino community that you're in touch with? How are they feeling about Trump so far, given the focus of the administration?
I would say great. I would say that so President Trump moved the Latino man vote in California, and this I would say the focus of the Democrat Party on lionizing and making heroes out of, MS-13, Tren de Agua, wife beaters. those types of people holding men up like that as their heroes that they are going to fight for, and flying, to El Salvador to do wellness checks on them. I think that really reinforces that the Democrat Party looks down on the Latino Hispanic community, thinks of them as these, downtrodden gangsters, that they need to protect in America and their rights, and they forgot, the Americans that are here and what this open border has done to their communities. It has made all communities in America less safe. It has drained social service resources. In California, the Democrats voted to extend Medi-Cal welfare resources, so like health insurance, basically, to illegal immigrants. And that basically bankrupted the whole system, where it's cost over $10 billion when it was supposed to cost much less, which we didn't have to begin with anyways. They are filling the schools, and so it's creating a drain on the education system for as well. I mean, they can see it all with their own eyes in their own communities, and it reinforces that correct that they voted the right way. It also, Steve Garvey, when he ran for U.S. Senate, he had a huge surge with the Latino population in California, becoming, less entrapped by, this Democrat machine, and more open to looking at alternatives. These communities are more religious. They stand for family values. They're much closer in certainly their social beliefs to conservatives than they are to liberals.
Elizabeth Barcohana, appreciate you being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, that was great. And there will be a podcast should be out tonight. I'll DM you the link, share it out, and thank you for making the time. Good to talk to you.
Amazing. Thanks, Buck. Nice to see you.
You too. Do you know, just like here in the U.S., Israel has their own Independence Day? In case you missed it, this year, Israel's Independence Day was a few days ago on May 1st. But for the people of Israel, freedom is nothing more than a daily struggle just to survive. There's no real peace, only terror. No joy, only suffering. The Israeli government recognizes the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews for ongoing help to make sure the elderly, the sick, the wounded soldiers, and impoverished families don't fall through the cracks. Your gift to the fellowship today will provide life-saving aid, medicine, hearty meals, safety, and comfort. I believe that when we bless the people of Israel, we unlock God's blessing in our lives as well. Show your support for Israel's independence by making a life-saving gift today. Call to make your gift at 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-4325. Or go online to ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.